First to this story. So we've seen every couple of years, it seems like, there's a new report. And I know that I've covered them and we've talked about them, where the IMF will release some internal audit and it will say, look, actually the promised benefits of austerity and everything that goes with it, from privatization, slashing public services, the economic benefits have been overblown. And then sort of by implication, we need to adopt a more coherent and more sort of broad-based and integrated development strategy. And if you're anywhere outside of the halls of the IMF or World Bank, this is really obvious from examples as diverse as Russia, Bolivia, and everywhere else imaginable, that austerity policies driven by the bank from the 80s through the 90s through, the modern era have done what you'd expect them to do on their face. If you cut public services and you open up a favorable environment for foreign capital, essentially you produce outcomes you would expect. There is, maybe in cases of extreme poverty, there is some new jobs, some new growth rates because you're starting with so little. But of course, the growth is incredibly lopsided. It's environmentally damaging, and it embeds and recreates and perpetuates serious social problems. So this is a piece from the website africaisacountry.com, and it's a very good site on African issues. And this is a piece by Maria Hegelveld, and she starts by talking about all of these recent reports on whether neoliberalism has been oversold, and some of the IMF's own sort of admitting of the problems in austerity policies. And she said, and she even quotes from an IMF essay which is titled, quote unquote, "Neoliberalism Oversold." And she says, now I'm quoting from Hegelfeld, the title that while the IMF essay titled "Neoliberalism Gives One Hope," that neoliberalism oversold gives one hope that the IMF is finally coming around to the position that its policies have caused a lot of damage across the world, and perhaps the fund will be more cautious this time around, and it intervenes in resolving the nascent debt crisis in Africa. So she says that this is an apology, but it's awfully late and weak, and goes on to sort of talk about some current policies being promoted across the sub-Saharan Africa and the subcontinent, even after these acknowledgments. And I'm going to quote again from her piece. Across sub-Saharan Africa, the main adjustment measures that are implemented and considered for the next few years are subsidy reforms and wage bill cuts and caps, followed by an increase in consumption taxes and other welfare cuts. So consumption taxes mean, as an example, let's be really clear about this, whatever your staple grain or meal or food is, say it's corn, say it's, any basic food staple, millet, your taxes are going up while you're cutting services and increasing the costs of most every type of important basic necessity. So basically, the IMF, despite its own castigation of itself for promoting these unjust and failed policies, is continuing them in Africa. I'm quote again from the article. The notion that there's no money for safety nets, decent jobs, quality education, healthcare is simply a myth. Just by tackling illicit financial activities of transnational corporations and rich individuals alone, Africa could win back about $50 billion a year. That's why, in addition to debt restructuring, the authors, and who she's quoting, seek progressive tax reforms as more effective than a just approach than austerity. Same dynamic, by the way, in Greece.
Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.